Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Before I turn it over to Mark. Let me read the intro. Following the guidance issued by the Commonwealth uh, in March of 2023 regarding the open meeting law, this public meeting will be held remotely, and individuals wishing to participate may do so by utilizing Zoom video conferencing technology. And I'm just
Oh,
going to take a quick roll call.
Woody, can you add Rob as a panelist?
I thought I let him in, but
You just sent me a text
No,
on it.
no, Barry, but we're good to go. We're good to go.
Okay.
okay. All right, great. So just want to do a quick roll call. Marty,
Here.
Kevin,
Here.
uh, Nina,
Here.
Gavin,
Here.
Dick,
Here.
and I'm here. So we should be all set. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dive right into things. The first presentation this evening is going to be Park and Rec. So Mark Galoni has got his slides up. Can everybody see the slides?
Yes.
All right, great. All right, Mike, it's all yours.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. I think I know everyone, but for anyone that doesn't know, I'm Mark Galoni, Director of Parks and Recreation. So I'll present this on behalf, obviously, of the Park and Rec Commission. And thank you to Gavin and Kevin meeting with us, a few months back. So hopefully this answers any questions. I'm more than happy to answer any questions tonight. So just, our mission as a department is to provide Dover residents of all ages with positive recreational experiences through high quality programs, activities, and services. We're committed to meeting the evolving needs of the community while also preserving the natural resources in parkland for future generations. So just in a nutshell, kind of what Parks and Rec, what we do, who we serve. We serve all ages, children, teens, whether they're looking to learn, to play, to have that belonging, or even career skills. So, as we employ, our summer staff or staff throughout the year, hopefully giving them some skills that they can take in their future endeavors. Also to adults, whether it's fitness classes, looking for some stress relief in a program or an open gym, or connection, just coming, and whether it be at our trails, at our parks, or at the community center. And then seniors, obviously being here in the community center, whether they're looking for mobility, wellness, or again, that community feeling. So what we do, we serve all those entities, children, families, adults, seniors, community organizations, whether it's through our programs, whether it's through our events. We have close to a dozen events throughout the year, or whether it's our facilities. No matter where it is, if it's a facility, if it's a program, if it's an event, we're looking to bring the community together. So each of those spaces, whether it's the trails, the playground, the field, the community center, or a program, or Dover Days, it's bringing the community together. And why do we do it? It's those opportunities to create where everyone can kind of connect in town, or to grow, whether you're a child, whether you're an adult, or whether you're a senior. So here's just an organizational chart, just so everyone, for those that are not, aware of everything. So we have an elected commission that oversees the department. So we have a 5-member elected commission with a director underneath that. We also have an full-time assistant director, full-time recreation supervisor, and we have groundskeeper and heavy equipment operators. We have 3 of those. We do have an agreement with DPW that we kind of, they fall under the same union as the DPW staff. The salaries are still under Parks and Rec, even with that agreement, but we kind of share, kind of leading those parks employees. And then seasonal staff, volunteers, adult program vendors can fall under that assistant director, and then our youth program vendors fall under the rec supervisor. So just kind of measuring our performance, thank you to, for the guidance and kind of just making us look at kind of what we're doing. And for us, we after talking with the staff, we kind of looked at three things. One is community reach. Are we expanding our access? Are we getting to or increasing the number of people we're offering services to? Number two, is there a resident benefit? Is the town dollars serving mostly residents? And then engagement and demand. Are residents returning for a program or an event? So those are the three that we kind of looked at and dove into. So first, just our community reach. So looking at some of our numbers, almost 1 in 4 Dover households registered for a Park and Rec program in 2025. So this doesn't take into account our events, Dover Days, our egg hunt, any free event, community event that we don't take registrations for, but this is just registrations and programs, events that we track. So total engagement, I think, in terms of total engagement, free programs, park use, facility access, is significantly higher than this, but this is for, again, our registered programs. So you've seen it's grown over the last few years. I think directly related to the community center. We've seen a huge increase in terms of people doing our programs, coming to our programs. And I think that's why, especially this past year in 2025, we saw a pretty big bump in that. Last few years, we did have to limit some of our programming, just not having a permanent home, having to utilize a bunch of various locations throughout town. So that did impact our programming a little bit. Number two, just who we're serving. Predominantly we're serving Dover residents and even more so Dover and Sherburne residents. So as you can see, 77% of our participation in registered programs was Dover residents, and if you include Sherburne in that, we're up over 85%. So that's a bump over the last few years, and I think as more people come and see the community center, see what we have, that number will only increase over the next few years. And then here's just kind of our strong engagement program value. Looking at our numbers from 2025, we see a high retention rate, and over 80% of the people that participate in the programs are doing 3 or more programs, and only 11% are doing just one single program. So I think that shows in terms of demand, but also strong program value that we're offering to the community. And then just kind of a year-to-date 2026, just our snapshot. We're seeing, as I mentioned, broader participation across age groups, stronger engagement across the board in prior years. We're consistently getting positive feedback on our special events, community programming, as I meant Dover Days. So we're getting some good feedback from the residents. High satisfaction and demand for kind of some of our core programs. Our summer camp, consistently has strong numbers. We're increasing participation in that. Some of our art programs, musical theater, are filling up in our after-school sports. So those are some of our core programs that we're seeing participation increase in those. And then expanded open gym time. One of the big things we got from residents over the last few years was some of that unstructured play. And so we have open gym time for families, open gym time for, middle school, and for adults. So we've seen all of those. We've seen adults come in and play basketball. We've seen families come in and play pickleball or badminton. And we've seen our middle schoolers and younger come in, especially on those half days. So we're definitely seeing that expanded use. And obviously the highlight is the community center, directly related. I think it's functioning exactly how we envisioned as Parks and Rec, not just as a program space, but as kind of that community hub. We see high daily usage, even not necessarily enrolled in programs, residents coming and meeting people or using the cafe or using the study. So we try to let everyone know that, you can still use the community center even if you never register for a program, whether that's COA or Parks and Rec. So we see multi-generational use, families, youth, seniors. We get positive feedback from residents, even from some that, might have been initially skeptical during the process. We've seen them come in and enjoy the space. So we think it's really serving as a true gathering spot for the community. And then growth and managing that growth, obviously. The public and, obviously want expanded access, in terms of programs, in terms of the community center. So that includes evenings, weekends, full-time staff here in Parks and Rec has absorbed additional operational oversight and maintaining, that program growth. And then how do we leverage our part-time staff strategically to support expanded hours? And that's the one thing, as you'll see in the next few slides, for our operating budget. It's just the support for some part-time staff. So right now, that's mostly high school, college students to kind of help man the hours if the community center is open. So just operating budget, kind of overview. In terms of salaries, we have an increase of 15,826 from last year, primarily salary adjustments recommended by the town. We have 3 union members, so the 3 park staff are part of the union. So all those salaries, obviously, there is still a union contract out, so some of those might increase after that. But right now, whether it's their overtime or full-time salaries, those are based on the current contract. And then what I talked about before is just supporting staff and supporting the full-time staff with seasonal, part-time, temporary, however you want to call it. And that's what the commission and the department is asking of the Warrant Committee this year. So we think it's important to split the funding across. So, for example, what we looked at, we had 3 funding sources. One is the Parks and Rec operating budget, one is the Community Center revolving fund, and one is the Park and Rec revolving fund. So to kind of split that up in between all of the funding sources, not put it into one. So this year there is a request for $6,000 to help with that that support. And I have let's see if I can get. So we broke out the hours. So this year is just so there's sometimes throughout the year. So as I mentioned, we're open 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. The community center is open on Saturdays from 9 to 2, except for summer months. And then in the winter months, we're open on Sunday from 12 to 5. So obviously, the additional support would help with those hours. Whether it's covering Sunday shifts, Saturday shifts. So we did out a projection for the year, and it came to a little less than $18,000. And that's if every shift was taken. Most likely every shift would not be taken, but a couple of assumptions. Assumptions were that it would be 3 hours during the weekday, a little longer on the weekends. But that would help as people come in, making sure they can find the right spot where they're going. Any questions that pop up, any equipment that's needed, any support that's needed for programs, or if there is no program going on, a support for the building in general. And that's why we included the community center revolving fund as well. And then in terms of, that's our salary breakdown and operating expenses. No operating line items remain level funded for FY27 with no proposed changes. So here's just a breakdown of our entire budget. As you can see on the bottom half, there's no increase in FY27. There are a few increases above, as I've mentioned, and the new one would be, we did have in the past, I think the last year was FY24, we had about $25,000 in our part-time temporary line item. That was removed in order to help fund our full-time rec supervisor. But yeah, we're looking to add 6,000 to help with that support staff, just so we can help the full-time staff that's here. And obviously, at the end of this year, we're going to look at the operating hours, whether there's some adjustments that can be made depending on usage. But we hear from the residents that they want the community center open, and obviously that's what we want as well. And then below the biggest line item, you can see is grounds maintenance. So that covers all the town properties, library, Chickering School, Town Hall, Police and Fire, Community Center, just the maintenance of those, along with a few town islands and Channing Pond, along with the fields. So some of that, most of that goes to the town properties, but that's our biggest line item. So that is all the slides I have. More than happy to answer any questions or go back to any slide. But hopefully that gave a snapshot of Parks and Rec and what we do and the benefit we bring to the town.
That was great. Thank you. So questions for Mark?
What's the percentage increase then? I mean, it's from last year's budget to this year's budget.
Yes. Let me see. I think overall it's just over 2.5%. Overall, but yeah, I think it may be 2.6. Yeah.
Thanks.
Hey, Mark, it's Kevin. Great job. Thank you. Love the KPIs. Do you have the number of people or participants? Like, I know we're seeing the growth. You mentioned like 1 out of 4 households. So I don't know. I'm just curious how many people we're talking about.
Yeah. So I think if you just in participants in general, I think we're over 2,000.
That's for the registered programs?
Yeah, so that's the hard part. Yeah, so I think it's significantly higher when you factor in all the free community things, summer concerts, Stover days, significantly higher. But yeah, we just
Sure.
We don't have registrations to support that.
Okay.
Other questions for Mark?
Quick question. Who are or where are the 14% that are not Dover or Sherburne residents coming from that are, I guess, utilizing Parks and Rec?
Yeah, so they're all mostly just surrounding towns. I'd say the third most is Needham, and then it's a mix between Medfield, Westwood, are probably the 2 others that most common. So yeah, those are the 3 other, behind Dover and Sherburne. Those are the 3.
And is that unusual that, like, does Needham have a lot of Dover residents that use their programs or vice versa? Or is it a little bit of an anomaly that we end up servicing some of the surrounding towns?
Yeah, it depends on the community. Some of the communities are resident only. Some are open. I think all the ones around us mostly are open to non-residents. They have, priority, and similar to us, we give priority to residents. But yeah, it's just certain programs. For example, like our summer camp is all Dover, Sherburne. We don't get any outside residents. I'd say the biggest one that we see is our tennis lessons. Peter Cooper has the word's gotten out how good he is. And so yeah, we see some surrounding communities. Just a lot of communities don't have a tennis pro, and it's a high school or college student teaching lessons, or yeah. So that's the one I think we see the most non-resident. But again, we do give priority, and then but yeah, so not many. Obviously, like you said, 14%. But yeah, most of it, I'd say the third one's Needham. And then it's Medfield and Westwood.
Mark, what's being done now to publicize the community center?
Yeah, so we've kind of revamped. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out to over 1,000 contacts. We see an open rate over 70% consistently. So that's our biggest one. That's the where we get the most word out about whether it's programs or events. We have in here at the community center, we have in our lobby, we have a TV that just rotates through. So that's promoting both COA and Parks and Rec programs. But yeah, so those are the two biggest. Obviously, we have social media, so that's getting to a lot of families, getting the word out. But single biggest thing is our monthly newsletter that goes out.
There are two things that have struck me as I've been there, particularly in the evenings, is just kind of the buzz. There are a lot of people just seemingly hanging out, doing things. The other is you're always there. Well, I'm just wondering, kind of as things grow, it's going to require more coverage, more time. Is the coverage you're asking for going to be enough? Because that's going to just cover the hours you're currently open, but it feels as though it wouldn't take much for the demand to cause an increase in the number of hours as being a desirable thing. Any
Yeah,
sense of
I
that?
think for the weekdays, I think we've kind of maxed. I think 8 to 9 p.m. is kind of where we're at. Potentially on weekends we adjust, and that's where this would directly affect. We've gotten to a point now. Sundays, we have some quality staff that can kind of they've been great, and they can kind of handle the Sundays. That's the idea, is to try to get away. I don't want to burn out any of our full-time staff, but yeah, it's important to have someone here if something comes up, and there's an emergency, but also to balance that with quality, part-time, staff that can help out and fill some of those gaps. But yeah, so we're excited, obviously, that people are using the building. We see a lot more people, whether it's they come in and drop someone off for a program for a kid, they're staying, where before they would drop them off and leave. They're coming and using the study, they're using the cafe. They're using other parts of the building, which is great to see. So yeah, those are things we're looking at, and kind of in terms of schedule. But yeah, this additional request would directly impact the ability for us not to, be here every hour of the day.
And what are we not doing that you wish you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything that we're not doing. I think it's just kind of managing the growth. And some of it's a wait and see in terms of the community center. A lot of it we expected, and with the help of the building committee, like and with COA, we saw a lot of things coming down the pike. So I think a lot of it we're expecting. But yeah, I think it's just right now, it's obviously the support, for the additional, whether it's part-time seasonal staff. But yeah, other than that, I think it's great to see. It's great to see a building that people want to use, and they want to come in. Other than that, I don't see anything else that we're not getting the support on.
Great.
Mark,
Other question.
or I was gonna, yeah, I forget, are we charging now for renting any of the rooms or pickleball
Yeah.
courts?
Yeah, so we are. So yeah, so that's we are, there's a couple spaces, community room, gym, upstairs activity room, studio. So those are all rentable spots. We've had to date, we're approaching, I think, 80 rentals. Obviously, there's a tiered system. So, for example, like town departments don't pay, but that goes into the community center revolving fund. But yeah, so we're definitely, I think we're, approaching, I think we're at a little over $5,000 that's been brought in for rentals. But that would obviously help offset any of the building costs, including some of the staff, potentially. But yeah, so definitely an increase in rentals. Different renters than we've seen in the past. In the past we get some our open fields, our Dover Foundation, but we're getting a lot more varied renters. We're getting a lot of birthday parties. We're getting a lot of lunches. We're getting team banquets for the high school. So yeah, so it's great to see a wide variety, book clubs, garden
Yeah.
clubs. So we're seeing a huge variety of people using it. And I will say with every rental that comes in, 2 to 3 people have never been in the building and come in and say, this place is great. So yeah, that's exciting to see that, more people are using the building than previous that the old Carroll School.
And I'm sorry, is the rate card like published up on the town
Yeah,
website?
yeah. So it's all on our
Okay.
website. Yeah. So
All
there's
right.
a tiered system, whether it's town departments, resident, non-resident,
Gotcha.
nonprofits. Yeah. So it's just 4 tiers where you fall into. We want to make it so some spaces, for example, the meeting room is free, and some of it's discounted. So yeah. But obviously we want to focus on residents and the community groups as well. Yeah.
Okay.
And out of curiosity, is the revenue better than what it was under the old Carroll community thing?
Yes.
Like we're seeing like a step function change? Is it similar? Just any sort of conception? Was it what you expected? Is it more or less? And
Yeah, so I think we're definitely getting more usage in terms of, obviously, some of those are town departments having meetings, some of those, so we're not charging them.
yeah,
But yeah, we're definitely, just in the short time we've been open, we're probably doubled, kind of the total revenue we used to bring in terms of rentals. Our former rental, you know, system wasn't great. So yeah, so there was it just didn't make a lot of sense, in terms of the fees we were charging. So this one here is a little more thoughtful, organized, and obviously we'll look at that again at the end of the year with the Park and Rec Commission, Board of Selectmen, and see if it's working. But yeah, definitely we brought in just in terms of the number of renters, but also in the money that's been brought in.
Great.
Just wondering if that could be a potential KPI, right? Like, utilization rate or revenues generated.
Yeah.
Especially if we charge more for out of town groups or something like that.
Yeah, and one of the things I will say going forward, so we are hopefully it's in production now. We're going to get a system that can count every person that's coming into the building. So right now we just don't have a counter for the building, so we're not getting a sense of how many people are just coming in. So obviously we track a program. Someone comes in for a adult Pilates class or a kids class, they come in, but maybe mom, dad, or brother and sister stay in the building and use the building, but we're only counting it once. So that's hopefully will be installed here in the next few months, and that'll help us moving forward just see how many people are actually using the community center, and not just for registered programs. So that'll be great for COA and Parks and Rec. We'll have that data, and we can kind of see who's using the building and how many.
Yeah, I was just talking about the paid spaces. Like,
Mhm.
Like-
Oh, okay. Yeah.
in other words, if there's, what's if it's open from 8 to 9, like, what's the maximum amount it could be rented, and what
Yeah.
percentage of that are we actually renting it? That kind of a,
Mhm.
but yeah,
Yeah. Sure.
it's good to know. Thanks.
Any other questions for Mark? If not, that was great, Mark. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank
So
you.
we're ahead of schedule, shockingly. So Barry, capital budget. Barry Goldman and Rob Bunner are here from capital budget. Barry, you're going to start and Rob is gonna
Rob
come
will
in as
chime
needed.
in, as needed.
Yep, great.
And Woody, you're a member as well, so you know all that we know. And Mish, who isn't here, is also a member. So Warrant is well represented. And most of the people I've spoken to before. But for new members, welcome. And one of the things I found looking over for tonight was what I said to Warrant Committee in 2023, and I'll just be brief because what we're doing is a work in progress. It just doesn't seem it grows every year and it doesn't seem to end. And you'll see when we talk about FY27, what we have now is a work in progress. But back in 23, I said that the capital budget we project is going to increase substantially over the next 5 years. I had no idea that it would actually increase to this extent. But I listed some of the items that we have. Schools 25 years old. The townhouse is 100. And we've done a lot over the last 3 or 4 years to rebuild the townhouse in pieces, but keep the integrity of the original building. The library is 35 years old and requires complete replacement of the mechanicals and HVAC system. The highway building is 25 plus years old. It needs a stormwater system, salt shed. We built the stormwater system. We built the salt shed. This year is the fuel island. The fire department equipment is over 30 plus years old. We've started to replace fire engines and equipment. The protective service building is 25 years old. And we've had a plea from the two chiefs there to do a study on what we can do with the protective service building. The highway equipment is over 30 years old. The Willow Street culvert, which we've now repaired, and we thought there was 60 other culverts. I just saw a list. I think the new number is 111 culverts in town. We'll have to address some of them. Recreational facilities need replacement. Water infrastructure in the town center is an issue still, and we're dealing with a very small piece of that this year. And the Center Street Bridge eventually has to be replaced. So given all that, we have, Rob, you want to bring up the first slide?
Sure thing. I'll share my screen and bring up the presentation.
Okay. And so this will be where we are. As I said, it's a work in progress. And we've separated into columns. Requested amount, which is the initial request from the departments. The amount that we've recommended so far, the ones we've modified, and the ones that are deferred, and finally column are the pending ones. So just to give you an idea of the magnitude of FY27, we had $6,725,000 in requests. And so far, we've approved or recommended $3,195,000 and modified $400,000, deferred $2,500,000, and have pending right now $887,000. And you'll see from the list, we start out with the town fuel depot at $1,725,000. And that project has been pending for some time. Originally, in 23, we were talking about spending 600,000. And after various studies and engineering and meeting regulations, we're now at $1,725,000. Part of that is inflation, of course, but and the prices of mechanical equipment have continued to inflate at a considerable rate. So last year we were at $1,600,000 to do this. The skipping down to the page 2, the next biggest is the roof at the high school. And our share would be approximately 864,000. We're expecting to have a firm number by March 6th, since they've already put it out for bids, they've advertised, and we think it'll be around $1,600,000, but there's no guarantee that it'll be that low. They originally put in a placeholder of $2,080,000. So we're actually seeing a little lower than originally anticipated. So those are the two big ones. If we go back to DPW, they have a total of requests of about 3,600,000. The rest of them are pretty much comprised of trucks that are 30 plus years old and have reached really the end of their lives. Those trucks have been nursed along for many years, and mechanically they don't get parts very easily. They have to make some of their parts, and sometimes the trucks are out of service for several weeks at a time till they're waiting to either make a part or get them somewhere. So we've approved some of the smaller trucks. You can see 135,000, 180,000. There's a mower for 30,000. These are all overdue in terms of replacement. The DPW would like to start on the town center traffic improvements. That's a slightly over $1 million transaction. Originally, they thought the town share would be 600,000. The state would be reimbursing most of the $1 million. They've now done some value engineering, and they've managed to reduce that to 300,000. So that is in the modified schedule. We have not yet approved that. The design upgrades to Carroll Park water system is, I didn't even know it existed before we started on this project. There's an extension of the town water system that supplies Chickering School. It's approximately 60 years old. We think that, and we're waiting for some bids to come in, we think that the major tank that holds the water and then has a pump over to Chickering could be relined, and therefore the price is dropping from $275,000 to $100,000. Parks and Rec has given us, so that's DPW list. Parks and Rec has requested 500,000 for the repair of the parking lot at Carroll Park, plus building 3 pickleball courts. We've talked to them about perhaps separating the parking lot from the pickleball courts and doing 2 separate projects. It turns out that recent information is that the parking lot is also subject to a fairly new EPA regulation and DPW regulation, which requires us to reduce any kind of elements from stormwater that go into the groundwater. And that may prove to be very expensive. We haven't received enough engineering information on that matter. So that is in the pending category. The replacement of the playground at Carroll Park has been deferred to a later year. They're not ready with plans yet. And upgrades to the playing fields have also been deferred. The building department for 35,000. That's been deferred. All of the items for the building department have been deferred pending a study of the HVAC system at the townhouse, which has been periodically upgraded. So it's kind of it's a combination of an oil-fired boiler. There's 2 oil-fired boilers. One has to be replaced, and the other is out of order and would have to be repaired. So we're talking about doing a study on that building to electrify the HVAC system and possibly consider other fuel sources such as geothermal. And Carl Warnick has been working on that, and he's given us an estimated quote for a study of $150,000. So we're at this point we're considering that. We've had 1 vote on it, and we're going to go back and get more information and then have a final vote on it. So as you can see, the total approvals so far are 3,295,000, and the maximum amount, if we were to add in all of the items that are pending and modified, would be 4,082,000. So approximately double of what the last year capital expenditures under Article 5 and 6. So that we also have some more detailed explanations of the in the next pages of the replacements that we're recommending. And I won't go through the details at this stage, but if anybody has any questions, we're happy to try to answer those. We think it's going to take us another month or so to get everything in order. We were late in starting this year because the Collins Center was doing their 5-year projection. So we're not quite finished. And we hope to be a little after open hearing. Any questions?
I have a couple questions. Can you help me understand what was the framework by which you decided things that would go into the deferral category? And the reason why I'm asking is because it seems like we push off a lot of things and things aren't getting any cheaper. And in fact, it seems like costs have escalated on many things over years, substantially more than whatever perceived making it more manageable for the town by spreading it out over several years. In which case, part of me says, look, I don't like spending excessive amounts, but why not bite the bullet and get things to a better state versus deferring and pushing off? And so I'm just trying to better understand, how did you think through what you wanted to defer or the rationale for deferring, especially in context of history where things have continued to inflate far in excess of 1 or 2% a year or anything else like that?
Well, most of the things that we defer are projects that may or may not be ready. So what we do is we look to see if the project can be completed, and we're not dealing with real prices in. I mean, that's a handicap that we have. So we don't know what the prices are going to be on projects until it goes out for bid. So there's a lot of due diligence that we try to do, but the difficulty with getting municipal prices is that most vendors or contractors or subcontractors are not qualified to do bid projects or public projects. So we have to try to find vendors that are willing to cooperate, knowing that they may not get the project. So they have to do a fair amount of work in order to give us an idea of an estimate. So estimates aren't necessarily that the departments get and that we try to double check, are not necessarily the full amount that's going to happen. But the project may not be ready to go at that point. You know, just like with the fuel island, that was delayed because of a bylaw. And there's a lot of approvals that have to, we're not the only approval, you know, in the case of the town fuel island. So I think, you know, in the case of Carroll Park Playground, they're not ready to propose the project yet. Hopefully they'll figure out a way to that it's going to cost us less than $650,000. And we have plenty of instances where that does happen. That we've done an HVAC system at Chickering School that was originally quoted to us at $1 million, and we finally put it out for bid, and it cost us $600,000. So it's frequent that the reverse happens. I think in the case of things that have happened since the pandemic, and certain types of equipment are harder to get, then we try to speed it up as much as possible. But in some of these cases, it requires, like HVAC systems require a lot of planning and engineering studies.
And do you have any sense? I know in prior Blue Books, they've had the next several years. We're clearly going through a surge. How big is this pig? that's going through the Python. It seems like it keeps on getting elongated, the pig, and bigger the pig. And just trying to conceptualize the magnitude of the challenge from higher capital spending.
Well, we predicted in 2025 that over the next 5 years, there would be $19 million worth of capital expenditures. So that's probably a pretty good guess, but I think as time goes on, long-term projections are never fully accurate because you don't know when projects are going to be ready or ready to go, or plans ready to go. So it's at this point where we haven't considered the 5-year project, the new ones for 27 and onward, because we thought that getting 27 ready for this year was the most important function. But we will start in the next couple of weeks on the 5-year projection. So we'll try to answer that more accurately, but
And Barry, on that point, the town had some external work done to try and pull a lot of that projection detail together. So I think that the projection should be fairly fresh and fairly recently reviewed as a result of, is it the Collins Group's project?
yeah, and we'll be doing that within the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Robin,
for
you have a
sure.
comment?
I'm sorry?
Robin has a
I
comment.
do. Just to address some of the questions that Gavin posed. So first of all, it would be nice to think that we could do all these projects all at once, but we don't have the resources in the form of human resources to manage them or all the information we need to get them done. We also have known, Barry, I'm going to jog your memory here. For the last 3 years, we knew that this capital was coming down the pike. We keep refining these projections, but we knew with the stormwater regulation changes that was a significant increase to cost for the town. We also knew, because every building in the town has a report done, a capital needs assessment, and that basically goes out 30 years, and it gives you when the industry believes things need to be replaced. So we've had that done for all the town's buildings and the school's buildings. Just because it says in year 5 you need to replace something, we haven't always just replaced it. We've looked at whether or not it actually needs to be replaced. So this 20 million in capital, we've known for the last 3 years that this was coming. And and because we've talked about, well, how is the town going to fund it? We even asked if you could float a bond right now to pay for the whole thing or not. And, really you need to be able to have the capital project ready to go before you can bond it. So it's a long process. We also used some of the ARPA funds that we got to offset some of the cost of capital. Our staff has been phenomenal getting grants whenever possible. So we've done a lot of different things to reduce what we expected to be the full cost of these projects.
Right.
That's it.
Well said, Robin. We've had many meetings about funding all of these projects. And one of the things we've discussed is potential sources for funding the projects. And that I expect will be front and center over the next month or so, getting ready for town meeting.
Marty.
I was just curious, Robin or Barry, to Gavin's question about this pig and the python visibility on capital projects. Is this Collins study going to be helpful at all in trying to smooth that out more, or try to have a better linkage between the capital assets and the useful lives and deciding whether they come in one year or another? I mean, will that minimize that, or do you think it's always going to be the same, Robin, where you can have the best system in the world, but you don't necessarily replace things at a particular point in time? But it seems like it's at least going to get a more comprehensive capital asset list, right? And try to understand when things are coming up so that you don't run into these big bulges of needing $15-20 million in a swipe.
Right. So I think, a couple of things have happened. 5 years ago, when we had large amounts of surplus free cash, the town, we looked at all of our liabilities, including capital, and we set up capital reserve fund. Well, we set up reserve funds to help fund future expenditures. And the idea for capital was to treat it like any asset manager treats their capital. You contribute to a replacement reserve fund each year, and over time you build up that fund, so when an item needs to be replaced, it gets replaced out of the fund, and you're not having to raise cash to do that. The issue we had was the initial recommendation, and this at this point wouldn't have helped all that much, but the original recommendation by capital budgets was to seed that reserve fund with $2 million. And that was voted down. We elected to use the free cash for other things. So, and the hope was that we would be able to use that $2 million to offset the additional debt service that would be levied on taxpayers. So the ultimate goal, to your point, Marty, is we need to replace this $20 million in capital that's hanging over our head right now. And at the same time, we also need to ensure that this situation never happens again. So we also need to make sure that we are contributing to a capital reserve account, and that account will be used to fund future capital expenditures. We had many conversations on capital budgets about it shouldn't come as a surprise that a truck needs to be replaced. I mean, they just don't last forever. So, and that was, the one thing we were pretty good about the buildings. We never, by getting these capital needs assessments, but we never did the same thing with the trucks. And Craig Hughes, rest his soul, he believed that they don't make Mack trucks the way they used to. And so he did everything he could to keep the trucks. We would beg him to replace trucks. We would say, now I think we have a truck that's been in the 78 blizzard and the 2026 blizzard. But, so we really need to look long and hard about some of the decisions we make, because what's happened now is, and Barry mentioned it, you can't get parts. you can't get parts, you can't find mechanics that can work on these trucks. So we've really dug this big hole for ourselves, and lesson learned, and we need to get out of this hole and then save for the future.
Yeah, so
We
so
have
bottom line, that
I'm sorry.
I guess the bottom line on that, Robin, is this Collins Group assessment has been helpful in terms of achieving that objective you just described.
Very, very helpful. And when we first, I look back I think it was 5 or 6 years ago when we were putting some policies in place, and we looked at capital, and we were spending about $500,000 or $600,000 a year in capital, and we said, okay, well, going forward in all our projections, we're going to put aside 1.5% of the operating budget into this capital reserve fund, and we should be able to cover anything. But there were a lot of really big ticket items. And in the past, our policy has been only bond items $1 million or more. And that's another thing the Collins Center is giving us a different strategy towards, because really what we need to think about is smoothing out the increase in the tax rate for citizens. And so we really need to focus on debt service and how much additional debt service we can absorb. Yeah, so they've been extremely helpful. And unfortunately, the project has taken a little longer than we had hoped. We had hoped to have it all wrapped up by the end of last year, but it's not there. But in the end, I think it will be worth it.
And then just one other question, if I can. On the page before this, Barry, you had a police cruiser that got crushed by a tree. I assume that's covered by insurance, is it not?
That's what we've been told. It is covered by insurance.
Okay. So is that in your number, the $100,000, or is that?
No, the insurance goes back to the town.
Okay. But there's no
My
incremental
understanding
cost,
of
right?
how the insurance policy works, that
Yeah.
that gets accounted for by the town as opposed to the particular asset.
Thank you.
By the way, we have established some standardized methods, and we worked with a couple of other similar towns, and we did a study, especially for the trucks. So depending on the type of truck and what it does and how much it is used, we have established standards so that a type of truck is either a 10-year truck, a 15-year truck, or some of the heavier equipment goes up to 20 years. So we have the DPW looking at these kinds of things. So we hope to avoid long-term issues the way we have them now by applying fairly objective standards.
Do towns ever lease these heavy pieces of equipment if they
That's-
can't afford to buy them?
That's actually one of the things that we're looking at with the Collins Center. There are towns that lease their police cruisers, so it's one of the things that will be is being addressed in this study.
Other questions for Barry?
Barry, is there I'm circling back to Carroll Park. Is there a agreed upon master plan for that whole, the whole park there with the parking, pickle, playground, tennis courts?
Yeah, not that we've been given by Parks and Rec. They came in a couple of years ago and wanted to do pickleball courts and fix the parking lot, but it was just those items. So we've never seen a master plan for the whole thing.
Well, the original proposal, though, was for a much more ambitious kind of
Right.
pickleball court
Yeah.
that involved taking down a number of trees and creating an area close to the tennis courts. They modified that and basically adapted the basketball court as for temporary pickleball courts.
Right.
So the current proposal is to uh, make the temporary use of the basketball court a permanent kind of program. You,
Yes, the original deal, the original request was for over $1 million, and that was 2 years ago. And
but
then,
Dick is correct that while there wasn't a master plan, they did come in with a plan that had three different components: pickleball courts, parking lot, and playground renovations all together. The capital budget asked them to break up.
So my question is, do we think it's prudent to spend any money without a master plan? On the pickleball courts without a master plan?
well, we haven't considered a master plan. We've never been approached on that basis. But that's a good point. I think we should talk to Parks and Rec about doing a master plan. They have worked with an architectural firm, so it's possible that they could do that.
I kind of remember, and I don't know if it was last year's town meeting or the meeting or the year before, when I heard that we got into a big discussion at town meeting about the pickle courts.
Right.
And I seem to recall this question of a master plan coming up. So I'm just trying to think ahead of if this is on the agenda for this year's town meeting. I would maybe suspect that question may arise again.
So Dick's, just so there's no confusion, I mean, there is the master plan, which is being updated and is a warrant article for the planning board. But it doesn't incorporate, I think what you're really looking for is a master design of Carroll, correct?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Just trying to think ahead a little bit on it. I mean, even if they kind of said, okay, this is our pickle court zone and here's our playground zone or whatever, but just to be, I think, ready for those questions, and two, just obviously to make sure that we're prudent in saying that, we're not going to say, oh, gee, it's too bad we put our pickle courts there. It would have been better, a couple of years ago if we had done something else, because we hadn't thought the whole thing through yet.
Right.
Yeah, we'll bring it up with them, Dick.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Other questions?
I have to ask, $1.7 million for a gas pump or a gas station still seems like an extraordinary number. I mean, is it really one where we have to have it replaced versus just using other towns or publicly a gas station, everything else like that? It's sort of like I'm just trying to understand the conceptual, like, why do we truly need a gas station? I mean, yes, I know there are storms. Okay, plan ahead. You know when the storms are coming. Make sure all the trucks are filled up with gas, or make sure they're all filled up with the. I'm just trying to understand how broad we explored the options and how creative we were in order to say, do we truly need a replacement gas station, or are there other alternatives that might be more cost effective? I mean,
Well, we brought those issues up for the last 3 years. DPW has said that they've exhausted the opportunities to look at other towns.
Well, Barry, let me correct you there. Other towns said that they are not interested in regionalizing
Right.
gas.
Yeah, Sherborne particularly said that they were not interested. We approached them.
And Needham wasn't either, and neither was
There was some
Medfield.
talk about Medfield as well. So they have, we agree with you that it sounds like an amazing amount of money for gas pumps. But at the same time, we appreciate the regulatory issues and the engineering that they've had to go through in order to get to this point and to get approvals from other departments. So I think by default, as I said, they've exhausted all the other alternatives. And it seems that there's no other possibility. It is over 30 years old. One of my first questions for the town administrator was, do we still have insurance? And will that continue? And the answer was, yes, we have insurance, but there's no guarantee. There's no warranty on the tank itself. So it could, 30 years old is an extensive period of time for a gasoline tank. So and diesel tank.
I'm curious why, in particular, I think of a Sherburne. Of if I'm in this town that's financially stressed and somebody else says, I will effectively pay you something in order to utilize your resource. What was the reason that most of the town said, no, we don't want to let you even use our gas pumps or as an alternative? Was there, which for me at least is a little bit different than, hey, I want to regionalize my DPW. It's just sort of like, hey, can we use your gas tanks or pumps? And yes, we'll pay commercial rates for the fuel. But out of curiosity, what was the rationale that all the other towns around us were sort of like, no, pound sand?
They
They
all want
they needed
immediate
to,
and exclusive use of
yeah, they
their
needed to prioritize
facility.
their vehicles
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barry and Gavin, it's Michael Blanchard. I just wanted to add, I was part of some of the conversation. So yeah, that's the answer. And there have been times throughout my career that communities have run out of gas during extended snow events, multiple snowstorms. They can't get new deliveries in. The same is true for salt. There's many conversations. In fact, Barry will recall the Capitol asked a very similar question when we did our salt shed. Is there an opportunity to share with another community? And the same response from all the communities were no. And selfishly, I think we would actually say no if someone were to ask us, because we do have to prioritize, our needs in serving our community. And should there be an issue, we just don't want to deal with that. And the other issue is it's not just DPW. This also fuels police cruisers. It fuels fire trucks. So it's the entire town fleet that's impacted. So again, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the answer from the other communities.
Michael, do you know if there were any conversations with the mobile oil district representatives about that station in Dover Center and how that might be used as a substitute for the fuel island at the DPW?
So there weren't any direct conversations with mobile. I will say they don't have diesel, and that's the majority of our large trucks use diesel, and so that station, wouldn't be an option. But the other issue is our engineers and have recently, and I haven't seen the results yet, but they were conducting a study for another community who had a similar question of if it would be better off just purchasing gas privately or using, I think they're called Wex cars or something at gas stations. And they found that over the life of the fuel system, they were actually spending more because of the discounted rate we get on the fuel, that it was actually more cost efficient to install their own fuel island.
But this is a 25 or 30-year life for this fuel island, correct?
Correct.
And do we think all vehicles are going to be using diesel fuel in 15, 20 years from now?
So that's a good question. That's been asked as well by the Capital Committee. I think the reality is that we're all very excited to look at electric options, but the plow trucks, dump trucks, they're not there, and I don't think they will be there necessarily in even 20 years. And then the other issue is, and again, maybe this gets solved, but if they existed tomorrow, as you just saw, our DPW was out plowing for 36 hours. The charge doesn't last. And so you need doubles of trucks so that one's charging, one's out. So it just becomes so it's not that we haven't looked at it, but right now, today, they don't exist. for our purposes.
Uh-huh. And you don't think Mobil Oil would be willing to put a diesel tank in that station or?
Well, it's a lot more expensive, Marty. That's the other
Is
thing.
that-
You're paying retail rates as opposed to the discounted rates that you get as a municipality.
Yeah, but there's a lot of difference there if you get the $1.7 million saving on a fuel island, right?
There's a
Yeah, well,
space problem at the mobile station with
Right.
putting in additional tanks.
Okay.
So
right, and there's
Oh, it's a
issues
capacity
with
issue.
right, and there's issues with the flow of traffic. You know, they fuel, especially during snowstorms. There isn't a lot of room to move around in that station.
Okay.
Barry, in your intro, you spoke quite a bit about the state of the town buildings, public safety building, townhouse. Do you want to just elaborate on where you think that's all going?
well, the townhouse, we've been recommending improvements over the last few years. And so we replaced 71 windows there. We did a new roof. We've done extensive renovations inside. So it's been a process of rebuilding parts. Now we have the possibility, because the boilers are so old. One is almost 40 years old, of replacing them with electrification. So we've suggested a study of alternative fuel sources. And the state would be ecstatic to get rid of heavy oil that we use. So we could tap into green communities. We got $500,000. Michael, have they funded that yet?
Barry, I believe so, but I'll have to verify with Chris. I know we submitted the necessary paperwork. I believe it's been funded, but I can verify that.
Right. So we put in an incredibly highly efficient system in the community center. And that cost $1,200,000, but we received a grant of $500,000 because the state was very happy to our changeover from oil to electricity. So I think that the next step in the townhouse will be a study on what we should do. We also have pending, at the same time, we need to replace which we've already made approvals for, to replace the HVAC system at the library, which is more than 35 years old. And protective service, we've received recommendations from the chief of police and the fire chief to do something with that building because they have lots of issues and problems. And we listed them in our presentation, by the way. So that is something there is on the horizon. That building was first built in 1978. I checked that today, and then refurbished in 1998. And we've been kind of patching the HVAC system for the last 5 years. So the HVAC system has many failing parts, and there's a deficiency in amount of space for both departments. So we've recommended a study on that building as well. And the police and fire departments are behind that. They've been the ones that have approached us.
Any other questions for Barry? Great. If not,
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We appreciate it.
terrific.
And
Oh.
I'll be signing off if nobody needs me.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good evening.
So Melissa, we are ahead of schedule.
That's why I'm here.
So we're happy to have you go early so that you and we can end early. So uh, Melissa's presenting for the planning board. I've set it up so that you can share this. You should be able to share.
Okay. And I just shot a quick text to Jody Shu, Vice Chair. She's going to be joining us as well.
Okay, great.
I will pull up my presentation. Hope everyone can see my screen. And I will just, is it okay if I wait just a few minutes for Jody to jump on, or would you like me to get started?
No, you can wait. We'll give
Okay.
her, we can give her 2 minutes. I think people could take a break and get something to drink or.
Yeah, I've got a full glass here myself, just in case.
Why don't we take a 3-minute break and then we'll start with the planning board.
Awesome. Thank you.
So it
Mr.
looks like,
Chairman, if everyone's on and I don't want to hold up the group. I know you had a long night tonight and several nights of it. So if you want to proceed, I'm ready to go.
all right, that's great. Why don't you go ahead and start? And Jody
Thank
can
you.
join us.
So good evening, everyone. I am Melissa Santucci-Rozzi, the town planner. I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you before. For those that I haven't met, good evening. And I want to thank the committee for having me here this evening. I used your template, and then we do have some warrant articles as well. So we'll get into those towards the end of the presentation. Here representing the planning board and chair Cara Lisbon, who could not be here this evening. She is literally down under in Australia. So with that, I will move to the first slide here. The planning board overview. We have one full-time employee, myself, and we're very fortunate to have one part-time employee, Christine Brown. She works 24 hours a week, and that includes covering the bi-monthly planning board meetings, and also completing the minutes for the board as well. Put together a little mission statement here for the planning board that I can read out loud. The planning board is focused on guiding land use policy and decisions while protecting the rural character of the town with an overall goal to improve the quality of life for residents in Dover. The planning board tasks related to short and long-term land use decisions are done so judiciously while promoting public participation. The planning board's actions in municipal planning and project review are done so to support and sustain manageable growth of the community. Second slide was the section for responsibilities for the planning board. So I've broken them down into regulatory and non-regulatory. I know that everybody's aware of what goes on at the planning board meetings, and most of those things fall under the general laws that prescribe subdivision control and also zoning in our state legislation, as well as some additional purview, which includes signs, scenic ways, making zoning amendments, hopefully doing a master plan. We'll see how we prevail at town meeting, and obviously regulation amendments to help guide some of our zoning bylaws that we work with. On the non-regulatory side, the things that we don't have to do that we get involved with is the housing production plan, which we need to update by the end of this year. Special committees of the planning board is the tree committee that was formed by the planning board, and one of our members, Val Lynn, is the chair of that committee. The planning board also has representation on a lot of other town committees, including open space, sustainability, and the housing task force, which not only planning board members, but I am fortunate enough to be a member of as the town planner. Grant administration, from filing to grants, managing grants, reporting on grants, that all falls within most of the departments within the town, including the planning board. The town planner, just some of the things that I sort of do in conjunction with, but also just part of the regular work. As I mentioned, a task force member. I am the town of Dover's council member for the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. I oversee the subsidized housing inventory, which is making sure that units that are deed restricted affordable in Dover are being counted by the state, and also participating currently in the pedestrian access and safety committee. Long and short-term plans and studies. The planning board, it's a variety of those, some that came to mind. The hazard mitigation plan, which was completed in 22. The village center work that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. We're hopeful, if we get the funding for the master plan, to reintroduce some of that work as part of that. And currently working on some tree preservation work with the tree committee. And not so fun and not so fancy, but we also do street number assignments. That's just sort of a high level overview. As things come up from time to time that fall within the discipline, we will assume obviously those responsibilities as well. For the KPIs, the key performance indicators, what I have done here is created 3 categories. The first one is zoning and regulation amendments. And what we basically, I went back 1 year and then looking also at this fiscal year, and these numbers represent the fiscal year, not the calendar year. In FY25, the board was working on accessory dwelling units, floodplain updates, and they also had an article about site plan review and some timeframes. In FY26, busy year for zoning and regulation amendments. In the fall, we had our MBTA 3A district that we brought to a special town meeting. Right now, I am currently working on overhauling the site plan review bylaw, and we'll be presenting that at town meeting. We updated the accessory dwelling unit regulations, which accompany the bylaw. And also, there were some minor edits that came back from the Attorney General on the actual accessory dwelling unit bylaw, and we'll be addressing those also at town meeting in the spring. The second KPI that I had put together was the number of applications. As you can see in the table here, I've highlighted the type of application and the number. In fiscal 25, we had a total of 21. And so far this year, where I'd say we're about 2/3 through the year, we have 19. So we've been fairly busy this year working through applications. Short and long-term planning projects, excuse me, for probably 2 full fiscal years. The planning board prior to my arrival was very focused on the MBTA communities. And there was quite a bit of, even before the bylaw was passed, quite a bit of reporting and planning and things that went into that, that was done by the planning board and also our consultant, Horsley Witten. And then for FY26, the main highlights are going to be the tree preservation bylaw. We are in the process now of final review on the contract by Anderson and Krieger. And we have the housing development study and plan, which was an item funded by town meeting, I believe in FY24, might have been 25. And we have secured the services of Barrett Planning Group, and we are working with them on coming up with some creative solutions on how to address housing diversity here in Dover. We'll be having a kickoff meeting at the end of March. So if you're interested, please visit our website. We'll be posting some information about that over the next week. And then one of the other it's kind of a short-term getting it implemented, but long-term project is the OpenGov implementation. Every opportunity I have, I do thank Jason from the Board of Health. He was instrumental in this, but really a nice opportunity. In good timing of arrival, I was able to build out the applications. We have all proper applications on there, and I find it absolutely transparent and user-friendly. It's very easy for applicants. Residents can jump on and look at any planning board applications. And most instrumental is the planning board being able to access that and review materials at their leisure as they come in on various applications. The next slide, there was some questions in the slide deck. So I've jotted down some notes or things that I'd like to touch on. Are things going well? Poorly was the question. So we have the going well category. And overall, the planning board and the department are operating efficiently with noticeable improvements. We have all new staff. We even have some board members. And it's a new day in the planning department, and things are going very well, in my opinion. Transparency and community communication, not only by phone or email, but being available to residents and visitors to the townhouse. We love when people come and visit the department, but it's nice to, if you have a question or you want to look at something, maybe it's not something that's available online, to come to the department and be greeted by myself or Christine, and being able to leave with hopefully being satisfied with a smile and the information that you were looking for. We can't answer all the questions all the time, but we try to do our best and follow up with residents as soon as we can to get them that information. And then just again, what's going well for us is the OpenGov. We have essentially looked at this as a tool to duplicate the former paper records that we used to have. So we're able to upload all kinds of documents in addition to the things submitted by the applicant, which includes reports, decisions, and again, just a nice, really nice platform. Makes it easy for us getting things up there, and also easy for access literally anytime, anywhere by logging into the portal. Items under review for improvement, the website. So we are combing through that. You might already notice some changes. A lot of things were outdated. The meeting schedule from 22 was up. It's just, in my opinion, not acceptable. So we've been little by little updating that. We're going to take down some old information and get some new information up about our town meeting articles, our tree bylaw, and also some of the materials from the housing project that we're working on. And files and records management. I know some of this stuff might sound silly, but our records are very important. They're all public records. They need to be maintained and they need to be accessible and accurate. So we're in the process of organizing that. And then just looking at some efficiencies in the office, like scanning old minutes, putting those into searchable PDFs so that if you're looking for something, you can find it quickly and it doesn't turn into a day-long project. Any highlights in the departments? I will take every opportunity I can to highlight the MBTA. The last update out of the department was that the Attorney General approved those changes. And then on February 9th, we heard from EOHLC from the state. They are the wing of government that were tasked with making sure everybody completed this. And we do, in fact, have district compliance. So it's a nice outcome from something that was difficult for the community. Nonetheless, we will be eligible for any and all grant programs going forward. Very important to the community to maintain that eligibility. Something else looking to highlight, the site plan review amendments that we'll be putting forward at town meeting. I know the planning board had talked about hiring somebody and bringing in a consultant. Always have my fiscal hat on and looking for cost savings. That is work that I am able to complete and have experience doing that. So undertaking that work in-house is representing a fairly large cost savings to the town of Dover. This page, probably one of the most important pages, is our FY27 budget. This is the document I used to present to the planning board and also submitted to Mr. Blanchard as part of our budget packet. As you can see here in the document, we have all of the accounts, and I'd say I call them buckets, line items. The FY26 budget numbers are in the first number column. The second columns, the FY27 requests, the numbers in green went up, the numbers in pink, light red went down. And then you can see the total, and also down the bottom went in and sort of backed into those increases and what they represent. It is an 8.81 overall increase from FY26, and 8.27% of that is salary cost. As you can see, a bulk of that money, just over $21,000, is attributed to department salaries. And then we have about a 0.5% increase in the other budget items. And as you can see in the notes column, in putting together the budget, actually understanding where we spend our money, how we spend it, and where we might need that. And as you can see, we've highlighted those things in the notes column, and obviously happy to answer any questions about that from the members. The next section of the presentation, Mr. Chairman, gets into the individual warrant articles. Did you want to pause for any questions now, or do you want me to just keep going?
Yeah, why don't we pause and let people ask questions about the KPIs, the budget, the mission statement.
Yeah, sure. And I think, did Jody ever join us?
I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Jody.
Hi there. Great job.
Thank you.
I just want to interject, actually, Jody, that I'm really grateful to the planning board because every time I listen to one of your meetings, I realize how low stress it is to chair a warrant committee meeting.
Well, some of them are more high stress than others, but I can't say enough about the professionalism that Melissa has brought to the planning board and to the planning department in Dover. We're very, very lucky to have her.
Great. Any questions on what Melissa's presented so far? This is unprecedented.
Moving on.
So I did have one question.
Yes.
So last year there was I don't think you were around for this, Melissa, but there was a citizens petition to do away with site plan review
Yep.
on residential dwellings. We actually recommended against that in the warrant, and part of the reason for that was that it was under the understanding that there was going to be a comprehensive review of the zoning bylaws, and that changing the bylaw around site plan review should be deferred until the more comprehensive review.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, so a couple comments relative to that. The site plan review section really, as it exists now, it has a good intent. It's just doesn't read well. There's some sections that are confusing. It's really a process type of section that sort of spells out a process if you want to do certain things. Some of the things that it covers, can be loosened up a little bit, and that's what we're primarily looking at in creating two tracks, one that is very clear for accessory structures in residential districts, and we're also looking at some exemptions. I will have a much more detailed presentation on March 9th, going over some of these things. The articles will also be on file with the town clerk next week, so those will be able to be reviewed, obviously drafts. As far as the whole look at the bylaw, my recommendation is and will be and will continue to be, we need a master plan first. We have a 2004 and a 2012. The 2012 is basically a cleanup of 2004. The document's outdated. It does. I'll get into that a little bit more, but the main reason around why we don't want to advance a full right of the zoning bylaw is one, well, we're going to need some funding for that, some decent funding, and number two, we really need to get more direction on the land use elements that are in a master plan so that we can understand what sections and how the direction that the zoning bylaw is going to go. The amount of public input that we will be able to gather during a master planning process and direction from residents in Dover on land use, recreation, open space, all of these things that a lot of them fall under the zoning bylaw, whether it's enabling them or protecting them. And I think that that's really important. Embarking on a comprehensive zoning rewrite without a current master plan is somewhat of a no-no in the professional planning world. So that's a little bit about that, Mr. Chairman. In this particular section, even myself as the one who is administering it, is sensitive to the fact that it needs some attention, understanding the issues at town meeting last year.
All right, great. Jody?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I think last year when that came up, we recognized on the planning board that there were areas for improvement in the site plan review process. And, the petitioners were not alone. There was a lot of discussion on the planning board about some of the weaknesses of that site plan review process. So at the time, we made a commitment that by the following year's annual town meeting, we would bring an article to relook at that. And that's just what we're doing. And Melissa's leading us in that process. So it's a little separate to your comment about a broader zoning review, but we did promise that we would bring one, and we are fulfilling that promise.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Great. All right, Melissa, why don't you go ahead and go through the warrant articles?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first one, we have 3 articles. One is a one-time funding article. It is for the master plan. Our initial request was 200,000. We're sensitive to that number. We have reduced it to 150. We have gotten quotes that exceed 150, but we feel somewhat comfortable due to a lot of the other work that has gone on from a planning perspective, including things like the open space plan, hazard mitigation plan, and we will have a lot of work done in the housing element of the master plan as well. Stated earlier, our current master plan dates back to 2004 with a 2012 update. The 2012 update is an antiquated format, text heavy, contains outdated map and graphics. It just doesn't represent a modern style that appeal to a broader range of audience and display data in a more user-friendly format. Everybody should be able to read the master plan and identify with it. It's not just for planning professionals and folks like us that just can't get away from hanging around town government. The master plan is a living document that should lead and guide the town in their land use decisions. Based on sound planning principles, the master plan should be updated every 10 years. If you do a really good one, you can get away with some mini updates. I'm hopeful that's what the outcome is for Dover. And depending on the community, again, I don't think this would be Dover, but a lot of communities are challenged with a lot of development pressures and issues, and also some financial issues as well. So they might have to take a look at their plans a little more frequently and pivot as needed. Elements within the master plan at a minimum include goals and policies, land use element, housing element, economic development, natural and cultural resources, open space, recreation, town services, and facilities, circulation, and implementation. All very important pieces. The implementation is the most important. Are we going to do what we set out to do? Are we going to do what we talked to the community that we wanted to do, or that they want done within their community? Having an implementation schedule, breaking down the goals that are going to satisfy the policies that we have going forward as a community, making those, they're usually short, medium, long range, and often have the little dollar signs next to them, how much are these things going to cost. And some really good ones also lay out a variety of mechanisms through grant programs to fund a lot of these different initiatives that cities and towns need to undertake here in the Commonwealth. There's a lot of good work being done by Dover staff and volunteer boards and committees, but it lacks synergy, coordination, and prioritization. Every committee's mission is the most important in their eyes. And I don't, that's not a negative thing. People are passionate about topics, but we need to think a little bit more broad as a community. The master plan will centralize, document, discuss, evaluate, and prioritize the goals and policies around the master plan elements. It will allow the town to gather a great deal of public input, direction, and vision to ensure that the efforts, plans, studies, services, and facility improvements within Dover are carried out with community support. And then I just gave a reference here to the state statute for master plans if folks want to look into that a little bit more. The second article that we have to put forward is the site plan that we started to touch on a little bit, and I've just created some bullet points here. One of the main takeaways is the 2 tracks. Now it's like you file for preliminary, you might need a full, you don't know, come to a meeting, we'll let you know. Not clear, doesn't work well. Clear tracks. If you're doing this, you need to do this. If you're doing this, you need to do this. And I think that permitting in itself is something that gives people angst, but if at least there's clarity and they understand the process, I think that can help create a comfort level. Clarify the purpose of site plan review within the planning board's jurisdiction. I want to thank Jody for really highlighting this and giving me some really good notes. And I've put something together that I hope to share with her in the next couple days. Look at our definitions and add some for partial and full site plan review. Create exemptions. I think a lot of the concern at town meeting is, this extra layer of permitting for homeowners. And even in my limited time here in Dover, the term accessory structure can have a variety of meaning, from a shed to a 30,000 square foot stable. So obviously a very different type of structure, different review, different impact, and who needs to weigh in where is really what we're focused on. The exemptions that we're looking at will be to the most common accessory things that you see: sheds, garages, and pools. We want those types of structures, people to be able to do that through a building permit process, and negate the extra level of permitting and cost associated with that. Removing and cleanup of discretionary language. There's some things in the bylaw, I don't know what they mean. I ask a couple people, they're not sure what they mean. That's a concern. As the planner, that is a huge concern. So we got to clean this up. We want this, again, this is a section that provides direction on process, not so much a section on trying to get coy with a use or a definition or something like that. So clarity is important. There is also some discretionary language in there about what does something look like, the materials, the planning board, frankly, in absence any historic overlays or design guidelines, that isn't something that's really in the planning board's purview. So we're going to be cleaning that up and having some more general criteria. We don't want to completely lose sight of that, but we also don't want to include things in there that are not within our jurisdiction. Section 18540 is a section that requires the Board of Selectmen to review before building permits certain things in the open space and official zoning districts. An extra step. We worked with the selectmen in January and had a joint meeting for Hale. They were putting up a small building, like some bathrooms, a little first aid room, and what have you. We had a joint meeting. I thought it went very well, very clear. And the outcome was one decision. Everyone signed it, and they're going to be starting that project. Well, not as soon as they thought, but soon. So again, creating efficiencies, clarifying processes, and another example of that. And then the schedule of uses, which is the table that lists all the uses in all the zoning districts. And we have a lot of letters in there. NR, not required. P, everywhere else means permitted. Here it means prohibited. We've got some just wording and coding that really doesn't make sense. So I'm basically going to be redoing that to mirror these new tracks, whether it be partial site plan review or full site plan review. And then obviously there's some sections in there for special permits and things like that, and just cleaning that up. So when you find a use in that table and you go to the zoning district, there'll be a box that tells you exactly where to go and what board that is. So again, more clarity in the bylaw. We're also looking at our fees. That isn't for town meeting, but important to add. Our planning assistant has gathered fees from all the surrounding towns and has them in a spreadsheet. So we're going to be taking a look at those as well. And our last article this year is the modifications needed to the accessory dwelling unit bylaw from the Attorney General. So with the accessory dwelling units are allowed anywhere there is a, quote, primary dwelling, whether it's a 1-family, 2-family, 9-family, that doesn't matter to the state. We don't have a lot of those here, and the term single family makes sense for Dover. They didn't like it. We'll be changing it to primary, which essentially has the same meaning for us. If we're in a situation where there are multiple residential dwellings, then the largest primary dwelling is where you would calculate your floor area from. Floor area was also something that had come up. The state goes by the gross floor area, including the basement, if it's of a certain ceiling height. So basically rewriting that section, and I am pulling the definition right out of the ADU guidance from the state and putting that in there for gross floor area so that we are just matching up as closely as possible. And that's all I have this evening. Again, happy to answer any questions, go back over something, whatever the committee would like. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're on mute.
Any questions for Melissa or Jody about the warrant articles?
I was curious, how much fee revenue do we actually get? Because when I went online, the last fee schedule I could see was from 1995 and seems to refer only to subdivisions. And so I'm just curious of, or,
Thank you. That's a great question. We do have the fee schedule online. There are other fees listed in there as well. I don't have those numbers available off the top of my head. What I can tell you, let me just go up to the table here. So the site plan reviews, all of them are 500 currently. The signs are 250. The scenic road is 250. It's not a lot, Mr. Koo. It's we're not talking tens of thousands of dollars. We'll be looking at those. It's to me, it kind of makes sense. The more you're going to do, the more you should pay. So we might be having a sliding scale based on square footage. That isn't uncommon. When you get into residential development, we don't see a lot of multifamily development, but that type is usually you pay per unit for an application fee. So we'll be looking into detail in all of those, but it isn't a large number.
Other questions about the warrant articles?
Melissa, I was curious, the $150,000 for the master plan, is that for third-party consulting or advisory services primarily?
Yes, sir. We would be putting out an RFP to secure a consultant that would we would be support and we would do a lot of the running around type of work, but they would do a majority of running the public participation portion of it, organizing all of that, and drafting a lot of the text.
And you do think 150 is going to be enough, or?
Well, the two prices that I got were 200. I completed one with a consultant in my last community that we started in 21. It was about a 2-year process that cost us 180,000. Much different community though, much bigger community, a lot more land issues. I'm hopeful that with the work that we have, and if we have to supplement it somehow, that I'm able to do that and provide some of those skills. But we're sensitive to that number and we wanted to reduce it. One thing that we can also do is try to secure some grants as well through the One Stop program. There are a variety of programs that do help with master plan funding as well.
Are there a lot of good third parties that do this kind of work?
Yes.
And therefore, there's probably some competitiveness in terms of what they charge for these things.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's interesting because, I've written a lot of RFPs and it's always the question of, do you put the budget in the RFP or not? But all you have to do is go to town meeting and look at the article. We want to be competitive. We want to try to get the best price out there. But when somebody knows that we have 150, then it's going to be kind of difficult. My experience has been that the prices are usually in line. Like I wonder, they get together and say, okay, this year the master plan going rate is, there's got to be a little bit of that. I mean, with every kind of profession or service, there's a little bit of that goes on. But we're going to do our best, and we're going to, in the RFP, make sure that it's clear to anyone that's interested in working with us what studies we already have that we don't need to recreate. There's been a lot of good work, like I said, done by a lot of these committees, boards, and also staff. And then again, we have some capacity in the department to assist the consultants as well.
And I assume those consultants have best practice templates, if you will, where it then gets customized by specifics or particulars of the town. Is that how?
Yes, I mean, really what guides them is these elements that are, quote, required to be in there under the state statute. Different communities kind of sometimes overlap sections. They weave some sections in. One that's very big now that isn't specifically called out is sustainability. And a lot of communities include a lot about, sustainability and how they're going to approach a lot of these master plan elements going forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I was just curious on the line item for the 90,000 professional services. I assume large part of that is probably lawyer fees, but is there, are there other professional services that are wrapped into
Yes.
that?
Yes, sir. So, actually, really none of it is legal fees per se, unless it's related to maybe a specific project. What we will be looking to do with that money is update the housing production plan. That's going to be plus or minus 40,000. That needs to be updated by the end of the calendar year of 2026. We will be using some of that money for the tree bylaw. That's going to sort of bridge FY 26 and 27. We have a $12,000 grant. That's a $40,000 contract. The remaining 28,000, a little bit will come out of 26, maybe some work that's done in June. And then we'll be moving into fiscal 27 using some of that money. And then the other item that we hope to work on in the next fiscal year is once we finish the housing study and plan with Barrett Consulting, we're going to probably be looking to do some work around updating our zoning bylaws to reflect the outcome of that plan.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Sorry if that was too much, but
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much.
thank you. And if there's anything afterwards, please feel free to email me, reach out. And I want to thank Nina, our liaison, again, for making herself available and always coming to the planning board as well. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you on the 9th. Thank you.
Thank you. Good
Have a
night.
great night.
Yep. Okay, last one. Michael.
Last, but hopefully not least.
Definitely not least.
Oh, thanks. Let me. Can you see the full presentation or?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, perfect. So thanks for having me. I know it's a long night, so I'll try to move through this as quickly as possible. Just to note, I'm happy to take any and all questions. I did lose both Chris and Robin, so I am flying solo, so bear with me. I'd be happy to get back to you if I need to. So following your template, which I appreciate receiving, the Town Administrator Board of Selectmen office is two names, one office. In addition to myself, we have, Chris Costello, our Assistant Town Administrator Finance Director. Mona DeCilio is our Executive Assistant. Suzanne Hiltz is our Management Analyst and Communications Assistant. And Robin Tassino, our Human Resources Director, also falls under our department. Basically, the Board of Selectmen are responsible for everything accept our independent board and committee responsibilities, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I won't go through all this, but as you can see, it's a variety of things in addition to the fiscal management, human resources, labor and contract negotiations, procurement, licensing, risk management, all our insurances, and mostly all of our relationships with other levels of government and the public. Responsibilities of the selectmen are outlined in our local bylaws as well as state law. Again, I won't read all of this, but certainly I can send you a copy if you're interested, or check our bylaws. It goes over the memberships, some of the general duties and powers. The selectmen are the gatekeeper for all legal and lawsuits, whether it is against an independent board or the town as a whole. They're kind of the gatekeeper of our legal counsel. Again, as I mentioned, and they're in control of all departments that don't otherwise report to an independent board or committee or commission. Same way, the town administrator appointment and authority is outlined in Mass General Law as well as our bylaws. And basically, the theme is we really work as a team. The selectmen are the chief executive body. I'm the chief administrative officer, and we work together to carry out the day-to-day functions of the town. Consistent with what you're looking at tonight, town meeting approval for our operating capital. It really does take a village, or a town in this case. We work with many departments, boards, committees, and commissions, and of course citizens. As we talked about, budgets are a value statement, and we take those funds. And that's where we buy or pay for our personnel, our supplies, our costs to serve Dover residents. Capital budget, is Barry went over, so important to rely on our infrastructure in terms of what we purchase, what we maintain, how we maintain it, how often we can maintain it. And again, we work through this throughout the year. As you know, this is not just a January through May thing. It's a year-round process, even though these are the more intense months, all leading up to annual town meeting, kind of our Super Bowl. This is an updated organizational chart we're working on. This lives on our website, but it was a little outdated, so this is a work in progress. It's really important to note, Dover is not I wouldn't say unique, but less and less common, as many, especially larger communities, have moved to a more centralized form of government, typically with a board of selectmen or town council, town manager kind of form of government. We are very flat. As you can see, that top row, that is a lot of independent positions or boards and committees that report directly to voters. I always joke with my colleagues some days, and I'll pick on the Board of Health. When there's a big problem with the Board of Health, I'm like, oh, this is great. They don't report to me. It's not my problem, right? But the truth is, I think ultimately it makes my job and the selectman's job much harder, because we still have to work with all these boards and committees, even if we don't have a direct line of report. So it's a lot more of relationship building and trying to get trust of board and committee chairs in particular, and other staff that don't report to me. I'm very pleased to say it's been very successful. We have a great group of volunteers, a great group of staff, but it does add an additional layer of complexity, trying to get everybody rowing in the same direction and on the same page when everybody has a different boss. Again, I won't go over all of this in detail. You're welcome to review it. I think the key for today, we're really focusing on the Board of Selectmen. So you'll see on the left, they appoint a number of different boards and committees, in addition to myself, the police chief. They appoint the Board of Fire Engineers, and that's who the fire chief reports to. Council on Aging is an interesting one. They appoint the Council on Aging, but technically the COA director reports through the town administrator. Even though functionally day to day, it's kind of they do report through the Council on Aging, but from an official perspective, you'll see they fall directly into the town administrator with the other department heads you see there.
So, Michael, can I ask a question?
Please.
What you referenced in terms of all of these different boards that have responsibility for those particular functions, there's also you under your responsibilities have the assistant town administrator / finance. And that finance covers all of these entities, right? So that's one critical overlap or juncture between what you're doing and all these independent groups. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think with the independent boards, they're independent in terms of their statutory responsibility, day-to-day operations, you know, even setting office hours. They recommend their budgets. They don't come through this office. I mean, we help facilitate it. We present it as a package, but technically they're the ones that are approving those budgets. But yes, our town accountant, our treasurer collector, they have policies and procedures and processes that everybody must follow, regardless of if they report through this office or not. That is very true. Yes.
And in the other towns, you made some reference that this is different in other towns where there may not be as many of these independent boards, and therefore some of these functions would fall under the town administrator. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, again, in every town's different, but Dover is a smaller town. We're such a unique entity because we're surrounded by larger communities. If you're out in Western Mass, this is how it looks for every community. This is a little more rare as you get closer to Boston. Usually, it's a bit more centralized. So yes, you still have a planning board, you still have a board of assessors, you still have a board of health, but often they're the policymakers, but they don't directly supervise staff. So again, I keep picking on the Board of Health, but we'll use Jason as an example. His direct boss is the Board of Health. They supervise him, they review him. They don't, really doesn't run through this office at all. We assist them because again, like, our human resources director, she provides support to all town departments, regardless of how these function. I mean, that's been really a great change in the last few years because yes, I think a little bit in Dover before my time, but even in many communities, you see a lot of these independent boards can get in trouble because they are volunteers. They're not professional managers. They're not in the office every day. So sometimes personnel decisions get made that can get us in hot water, or legal decisions are made that can get us in hot water. We're very fortunate. We have a lot of good experience on our board and committees. I hope that continues because we, knock on wood, we haven't gotten in a lot of trouble, but the potential exists in that having a human resources position, which didn't exist as an independent position a couple of years ago, has made a real big difference. And I think you'll hear from a lot of these boards and committees, they really appreciate having that availability.
But the point you just made is there's less day-to-day supervision and accountability in that structure that is in place.
I mean, I think I would say generally yes, right? Because you have volunteer boards and committees who aren't in this building, aren't in this office. So I think I would say that's generally accurate. But again, because those boards and committees don't report to me, I don't know what their structures are. I'm sure. I'll stop picking on the Board of Health. Melissa was here. I'm sure Carol has set meetings with her in time to review her performance and things like that. But I think she doesn't have an office here. So
yeah. And I don't want to go too far on this, but just to put in your head to think about a little bit. As we've gone through all these hearings this year and the KPIs and throwing out the purpose and objectives, I wonder how that can get incorporated in what you and Chris do with respect to agreeing on what are those priorities, what are the things that should be measured, how does that translate into the value proposition for the dollars that are getting spent and getting allocated, committed, and spent in those various activities to really make it more of a joint effort, if you will, between you as effectively the CEO of the town and these various departments and functions that are getting funded and making sure you maximize the value of those dollars.
Understood.
I just have a quick question too, Michael. Do we know the total number of people that this encompasses? Like when you add up all of the volunteers and all of the committees and everything like that?
So we have that number. I don't have it in front of me, but I can get you that. Absolutely.
Okay.
We could get a full number of board and committee positions and a full number of staff positions as well.
Yeah, I'd be curious as to how many are paid versus total staff.
Absolutely. We can do that.
I mean, Congress only has 453, so hopefully it's taking us less than that to run the town of Dover.
Fair. I think it's definitely less than that. And then the other thing, just to keep in mind that, a lot of these boards and committees don't have staff, right? So their volunteers are doing the work. Particularly, things like we just dealt with the Historical Commission. They have important deadlines to meet, regulatory requirements, but they currently don't have any staff that supports them. And I think that today in Dover, that's working really well. I do think, though, it's always something I worry about as we find, a lot of our volunteers are very long term, and when they're ready to step off, there's not always the people to step up or the people to step up who have the time to commit that it would take. So we're not proposing any new staff or anything like that, but it's just something to think about as Dover progresses. There may be a need to look at volunteers are able to do less and may need to be absorbed by actual staff. So looking at performance, I'm going to go through a couple things. One is the Board of Selectmen each year set goals and priorities. I won't go through every single one, but I'll go over the next couple slides just to show you what this year's goals and priorities look like. And that process entails a number of goal setting sessions, kind of a little bit more informal, posted meetings, but a little more informal. And then they get sent out for feedback to all the boards, committees, and staff to review. And the selectmen then take that feedback and often, and this year especially, incorporated it into their goals and priorities. And then starting to look at some KPIs, and I'll do a couple specifically at the end, but some we identified as related to communication engagement, budget adherence, grant funding secured, and goal achievement. So far this year, just to touch on some successes, and again, I'll do a little more in depth on communication engagement, but that's been a huge success. The addition of Suzanne in our office has been just a game changer. The feedback we get consistently is just amazing from residents and the community. So I've been here almost 3 years, and we are almost fully staffed for the first time. Again, I won't rehash. I think the most of the work committee is very familiar with the turnover we've had and the employment issues and retention issues we've had with some of our key staff, particularly in the finance team. Our town accountant started last month. Our treasurer collector is about to hit a year. Chris Soring is our finance director. It's really coming to a really good place. So that's a really exciting success. There's always going to be turnover, right? As soon as we fill, someone's going to leave. But we had some really gaping holes, and I'm really pleased to say that we filled them with some really awesome people. And then Melissa talked about this already about our online permitting. That's been a goal for a couple of years, or I think more than a couple, and really happy to bring that to fruition this year. And it's been a great success, and will continue to get better and grow. You had asked about just some kind of what's not going well, or I tried to phrase it better, ongoing challenges. One, I think the Warrant Committee is where we don't have any internal IT support. We have a wonderful relationship with our vendor Retrofit. They've been really excellent. They have an on-site present once a week. They do a lot of things remote. But I know since I started, I think even before I started, that's been identified as something that we think needs to be supplemented at some point with an in-person presence. Not only, as sometimes referred to like the wires and pliers things, but we use so much software now, we don't have that sort of support to help employees. So just something that I think is on the radar screen. We used to have essentially 2 IT positions. We had an actual dedicated IT person, and then we also had a project manager, which really was an IT position. And those were cut over the last few years. So that is, continues to leave a hole. We are making do. We have an excellent partner, but definitely something just to keep on everyone's radar screen. That I really do think that's going to come to fruition and ahead at some point. And then, we'll look at in a minute our goals, but land use department coordination. As we talked about, we do have a lot of independent boards and committees. Generally, we work very well together, but they are functionally in silos. And we're really doing a good job of trying to pull that together, but we don't have any sort of umbrella position or person who kind of takes on a role of coordinating or directing all those departments. So again, it's something that's on the selectmen's goals and objectives to look at and evaluate how we might achieve that. So again, just another one of our kind of ongoing challenges. So again, these next two slides, I won't go over them, but you should get a sense of the selectmen identified, I believe it was 12 priority areas and 22 focus areas, everything ranging from communication, finance, sustainability, planning and development, human resources and staffing, and then a number of special projects. And again, we've made a lot of good progress. I mean, without going through them all, as I talked about, online permitting has been successfully implemented. Thanks to Selectman Havlin's work, we've resurrected the Board of Selectmen 3 to 5 committee. We have transitioned all our buildings to a new municipal fiber network. We're ongoing working to regional dispatch. So, a lot of these are going very well. Some are complete, some are well in progress, but it's really been a great process to set these goals, to monitor them, and then have the selectmen evaluate how we've done each year. Again, getting a sense of how we should look at KPIs, and we'll certainly tweak this as we go, but looking at communication, we pulled data on a couple things. One is our email communications. We have our town newsletter, as well as we send out news and alerts through email. We switched to the provider Constant Contact last year. Prior to that, it was kind of an internal listserv, and we emailed a PDF newsletter. There was no real ability to track how many people got it or who was reading it. With Constant Contact, we get a lot more information. And also, people don't have to click as much. They open the email and it's all right there. So since we've started using Constant Contact, our open rate is up to 82%, which I think is excellent. It seems to be well above the industry average. We've had a large decrease in our unsubscribe rate, and our email list has gotten much better. We get a lot less bounce back. This is just a note. I was fascinated by this. In some of the data, it indicated where people open the emails, and I was surprised. I just feel like so many people open everything on their phone or their iPad, but actually 65% of our recipients open their email on a desktop. That just surprised me, so I included it. That's no real point to that other than that. Social media, this is since Suzanne started. We've gone from 1 or 2 sporadic posts per week to 3 to 5 regularly scheduled posts per week. Our followers on our social media have gone up 13.7%. Our post impressions have increased by 346%. The reactions to the posts have increased by 35.3%, and the overall engagement rate is up to 8.5%. Again, couple of things to note. One is our post-click links. So when you have a link to kind of click for more information, have decreased by 21%. We've looked more into that, and the theory is Suzanne does a really great job with graphics and putting a lot of information into the post. So we really do feel there's less need for people to keep clicking. It used to be just, hey, click here if you want to learn about town meeting. Now it's a nice graphic. It tells you the date. It tells you when it is. So we don't think, clearly it's not less engagement. So we think it's just we're putting out more information and there's less need to click through. And then the other thing I thought was interesting, it did an analysis in our top posts since May of 2025. And that's, again, when Suzanne started, we're all around the community center, which I guess doesn't surprise me. Whether it was the construction updates, the opening dates, or the ribbon cutting ceremony, those got the most views, likes, engagement. So just another, not that we needed it, but it's an awesome thing for the community, and the community's really happy and excited about it. So that just backs it up. The other KPI I have some information on is our grants received. So again, this is a little difficult in terms of holding this office accountable because a lot of these grants come from a variety of boards, committees, and commissions. But just to give you a sense of this past calendar year, we received over $1 million in grants. In 2024, it was just over $800,000. In 2023, we were almost at $1 million. And in 2022, we were actually almost at 2.4 million. And again, I think you can see it's an outlier. We had a $2 million grant for the design of the Center Street Bridge. So that, or an earmark. So obviously that kind of blew that number up, but still a great number. So again, I'll just go back for a second. I won't go through all of these. Some of them are kind of annual grants, some are kind of one-off. But again, I'll provide you with these slides, and you're welcome to review the various grants that we get. And then for budget requests, I'm actually going to stop sharing this. I could not get the budgets into a PowerPoint and make them legible. So I am going to try and share an Excel spreadsheet for this. Did that come up okay? I can't hear anybody. Anyone want to? I just want to make sure you can see it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Sorry. So specifically tonight, I'm, obviously specifically talking to the selectmen's budget, but we'll go through the townhouse budgets. I think this is great this year. One thing I think we could talk through, I know you're going to have a total of 3 long nights, but particularly when it comes to learning what departments do and KPIs, I think it would be great if we could maybe, take a step 2 next year and bring in a lot of the townhouse departments, like the assessors, like the town accountant, like the treasurer collector. I think it would be great for you to meet them and hear directly kind of more about them. But I'm happy to try to answer questions, but I certainly am not in a position to go too in depth on KPIs for them. So I'll just highlight as I go. So first, this is the Selectmen Town Administrator Office budget. You'll see salaries and expenses are staying pretty level. This year, obviously, is ginormous. This is our salary adjustment. I know the joke's getting old that I did it last time. This is not a raise for me. We have pending negotiations with DPW and police. We also have a personnel board classification and compensation study, which will be wrapped up, I'm hoping maybe early March. So we have an estimated set aside. We hope this is conservative and we can bring this down. But this is potentially the funding that would be needed to settle those contracts and to adjust the compensation schedule for non-union employees. Should that happen, this number will not stay in the selectman's office. Some of it would, but it would be essentially not equally, but somewhat distributed throughout all the different departments. But it does need to live somewhere now, and so this is where it lives. So again, really high number, understand that, but that's just want to make sure you understand what that is. You'll see a number of things that are no longer here. I left them just for information. So for example, copy and postage, or further down, you'll see Memorial Day. We still have to pay for those things. We still support Memorial Day, but those were rolled up into the general selectmen's budget under expenses a couple of years ago. And I think we'll continue to look at opportunities to do that. We just had so many individual line items. It just didn't make sense. And over the years, we've kind of slowly done that. This is obviously your budget and your reserve fund. As you'll see, town accountant, pretty level, standard, COLA and general increases. Same for the assessors as presented. I will note the assessors did include a request for a new part-time position and associated money for some additional office furniture. Per your recommendation, we pulled that out. Your budget letter asked for those to kind of be on the side. So that's why this is reflected here, but it is not, in this case, it is not in the budget yet. So that'll be a discussion and a policy consideration. Is there an appetite to look at any of these additional requests and what we might be able to do or not do? You'll actually see a reduction in the treasurer collector. Our new treasurer collector was able to review our expenses and cut some of the services and things like that. So that's really excellent when that happens. We're keeping our legal budget level right now. That can really fluctuate year to year with a lawsuit, or if we had a number of 40B developments in a given year. And it's important to note this is the law budget for the entire town, right? So this is not just, even though it's under the responsibility of the selectmen, all boards and committees who might utilize legal services tap this. But right now we're on track. It's a generally good year, so we didn't see any need to up that. IT, we did increase expenses a little bit just to reflect actuals in terms of equipment replacement and some retrofit contracts. Again, currently we have no salary there. Same thing with town clerk. Again, generally just kind of rolled over, COLA salary step increases. Town clerk also oversees elections and registrations. You'll see a decrease in expenses because she anticipates less elections in the next fiscal year. I'm skipping ones that you're doing independently. I don't have those highlighted. Board of Appeals, they used to use some part-time staff for minutes and things like that. The chair has taken that on and asked that we reduce those expenses. So you see a small decrease there. Some of the building expenses, so Whiting Road, we have a garage that requires some fuel oil, electricity, townhouse expenses, again, fuel, electricity fall into here. The community center, you'll see there's no salaries. I think Mark might have mentioned. I think he mentioned about his DPW staff. But with the selectmen have an agreement with Park and Rec for Mark as the Park and Rec director to manage the community center. So Mark receives it's a little confusing because Park and Rec is independent. We don't supervise Mark, but for the purposes of the community center, I do. And only the community center, but he receives a stipend out of our budget for that additional work because it's outside of his job description. The big jump here is regarding electricity costs. So as Barry mentioned, we went to, it is an efficient but all electrical system. And this is to reflect what we are currently paying per month. It's about $6,000, I think, in electricity costs. For the all-electric building. So that is an increase there. Town report's another example of something that rolled up into the selectman's office. And again, building maintenance, mostly level, COLA and steps. Same for building inspector, no big changes there. Our regional, not regional, our vocational school assessments, we have Minuteman, and then this is the Aggie school. That's essentially a bill we get. It's just based on enrollment. So there's no real wiggle room here. We get an assessment. But again, that falls under the selectman's office. Public Works, I think was supposed to come Monday. They'll be back, so I won't touch on any of those. I know you've talked to the Board of Health, Council on Aging is coming in. I believe I've touched on this before, but just very quickly, every town in Massachusetts has a VSO, is required by law to have a Veteran Services Officer. We currently have I guess I'll call it informal agreement with the Natick VSO, who for $1,000 stipend acts as our VSO of record. We believe that may need to come to an end, and we may need to look for another arrangement. And we do believe I would bet my house on it's going to cost more than $1,000. So we're not quite sure what that looks like. Given our small veteran population, we don't anticipate it would be, $50,000, but we just don't know. So we're trying to work very quickly to get an arrangement with either another community, or some communities have regional veterans offices, and try to get in with a pre-existing group. So to be determined on this, but for now we're holding the existing budget. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we have a historical commission. They're not staff, so we monitor their budget. No changes there, very small. I mentioned Memorial Day lives within the Board of Selectmen. And then these are just kind of, for all town, we have our ongoing maturing debt and principal payments. We have our insurances, and I think it was announced here. It's just, I think it's actually 8.2. We can adjust that, but I think it's an 8.2% increase in our group health insurance, which I've never been so happy about before because we were holding 15. So that was excellent news for the budget. Our Norfolk County retirement, again, is a bill. It's an assessment based on our membership. And you'll see, just as an update right now, for operating, we're at 1.4% increase. So that's not a bad number to start with. Clearly, I think it's fair to say our operating is not the issue. It's our capital that we really have to deal with. Again, these are not under the selectmen per se, but I just want to quickly hit on the one they didn't touch on. Again, the additional asks that are either in the budget or on the side. So in the budget is some additional money for conservation consulting to reflect actual. We've talked about the community center. Not in the budget for police is a request for 2 new positions, an executive assistant civilian position, as well as an additional sergeant position, and creating a lieutenant position is just one ask. And then some additional money for a new cloud-based server and field training software. Also not in the budget is the additional ambulance funding for EMT staffing and on-call pay. It does include some additional money under DPW to reflect actual for fleet maintenance and compliance with some federal and state stormwater requirements. And I think lastly is Council on Aging. And I know Janet will be talking to you. The budget here does not reflect the additional hours requested for 2 positions, as well as one of them rolling or shifting some money that's currently paid out of a grant into the operating budget. So Janet, I'm sure, can provide more information, but I just wanted to highlight those. Any questions on this before I stop sharing the screen?
Well, Michael, what do you and the select board think is a target for the increase in the operating budget this year?
It's a great question. I mean, in my mind, particularly historically speaking, if you have an operating budget that comes at 2.5%, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Given everything that's going on, inflation. So, I mean, I think generally that's a pretty good target. Not that we've seen more, right? And even since I've been here, we've gone up higher. But I think if you were around that number, I think you could go into town meeting feeling pretty good about it.
And do you have a sense of what your priority is for the additional asks? Feels like some of these are
yeah. No, I'm happy. I think
essential.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for me, I'm very sensitive to a civilian executive assistant position in the police department. Having worked in a number of communities, that was probably one of the biggest surprises, that they don't have a position here that does that. And I just think that's a really needed position. I was present for Fire Chief Smith's presentation on response times and why he's asking for more money. $114,000 is a lot of money, but that was a very compelling argument of where that money could do some good. A couple of things. One is, perhaps if that's a tough number in 1 year, is it possible to maybe get there in a couple of years? Could you do half 1 year, half next year? I think we had a very small working group meeting with Woody and Gavin, and we talked a little bit about the ambulance revenue. I started to pull some data from other communities, and it's a very small sample that so far, I think it was 4 or 5, but all of them dedicated the ambulance revenue as special revenue or a revolving fund that went back to pay for ambulance related costs. So that could potentially be a discussion as well. Again, at the end of the day, the money is all the same, right? No matter what pot it's in, but doing something like that would have less of an impact on the operating budget increase. They bring in right now, I believe it's about $100,000 a year. So that almost covers what they're asking. And, I think chief had made a commitment, and we agree it's appropriate to relook at the ambulance fees and see if there's an opportunity to bump those, which could bring in potentially more funding as well. So that's a potential option there. And then I think lastly, the COA. I meet with Janet once a month. I'm very in tune to their operations. I think when Janet's here, what she's going to tell you is these additional hours are essentially level service because of the increased demand. One, because of just the increase of need in the community. And the community center has created a good problem, which is more people are finding them. So people they've never provided service before, never asked for help, are now finding them and asking. So I think that's not putting words in Janet's mouth, but I think that's what you hear from her. So I think that's another real high priority because they provide a great service and they want to maintain that level service. And then this is actually not on here, and maybe it should be, but Mark had mentioned, and Woody, I appreciated your comment. Mark's always in the community center, and if it's not him, it's his staff, and they're going to get burned out. And I'd really, I think looking at their staffing, which they're doing this year, and I think they're being really creative to pull from 3 different sources. But I'm generally very supportive of that as a priority as well, because it's an awesome building, but we need to keep our staff well and keep the building open and try to find a good balance of that.
Yeah, great.
And that's all I have tonight.
Everybody looks stunned.
Education was not in there, right?
Yeah. No,
it was.
Well,
in the general operating budget, that included the school budget. Yes.
Oh, it does.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, but have they concluded their negotiations?
No, nope, they have not.
Oh.
And the number in this budget that we showed tonight included their version 2 revision. So we're up to date, as far as I know, with their most recent approved budget. I know Dawn's coming to your next meeting. I'm sure she can update you, but I believe that's true. No, their negotiations are still ongoing.
So we're going to get the Dover School presentation next Thursday.
Oh, all right.
But we're going to kind of leave it at the regional schools at what we got at the joint meeting with Sherburne. But okay. She's going to present the Dover budget on next week.
Gotcha.
But she has a contingency in her budget for their contract negotiations.
Right. Just like we have that set aside, right?
And I'm confident that Dawn has included a significant contingency.
So that could come down, though.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
No ideas, though. The negotiations are pretty close to the vest, so we're not going to hear anything really about the negotiations until they come to.
I know. I always marvel at that fact, because isn't 50% of our town's budget is education?
Yes.
And 85% of their budget is salaries?
Yes.
And it's like a secret negotiation.
Yeah, it's not.
The process is quote unquote secret. I mean, and that's with all unions, regardless of town or schools or police. The results are public, right? So when they have a contract, that's public information.
And while the school committee is conducting the negotiation, Robin does represent the board of selectmen at the negotiations. So
yeah.
The town is part of the process. It's just
right.
Any other questions for Michael? Because I don't want to drag this out any longer than necessary, because Michael probably does 5 meetings a week like this. So
I'm happy to be here.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
All right.
Have a
So,
good night.
good night. So any pressing other business that people want to bring up? So in terms of scheduling, we're not part of town caucus necessarily, except as residents. That's next Monday. But then, so next Thursday, which is the 5th, we'll have our, I think we have schools, DPW, Council on Aging and Sustainability. And then the following Monday, Monday the 9th, is open hearing. So open hearing is in person. I think, I have to confirm this with Chris, I think it's going to be at the community center. And at least tentatively, it's scheduled to be both in person and on Zoom. For us, it's all in person, but for town residents, there will be an ability to attend by Zoom, which is actually a great thing, and hopefully will help us in terms of our KPI, which is to improve attendance at open hearing. So those are the pertinent scheduling things. So we're not going to have a warrant committee meeting next Wednesday. We'll just have the Thursday meeting, Thursday hearing.
Okay.
Great. So if there's no other business, I am more than enthusiastic to hear a motion to adjourn. But before I do, Mish, I just hit save transcript.
Yeah, exactly. So just at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Marty. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Nina,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Mish,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Gavin,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. All right, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Woody.
And we'll see you next week.
All right.
Okay.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Right.
Bye.
Woody, got it?
I got it. Yep.
Okay. So just if you can email it to me, I didn't realize, so I can't, when I do a transcript, it only starts from when I join the meeting. So I don't get it from the beginning. It's like, I guess everybody does, it's your own version of the
I
transcript.
see. I see. Okay.
So thank you for doing that. It's obviously it's possible to do it without, but it's just so much faster with it,
Yeah, no, I can imagine. All right. I'll send this to you right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No rush. Anytime. All right. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, and
Good night.
I just noticed the town's website says that open hearing is at the community center first floor.
Oh,
So
great.
it's
Okay,
on the
good.
calendar that way. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Perfect.
Thanks, Woody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. There you go. Are you off?
Yeah, I just have to send this, so. Yep.